This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Pepsi Prebiotic Cola in original and cherry vanilla. That Pepsi taste you love with no artificial sweeteners and 3 grams of prebiotic fiber. Pepsi Prebiotic Cola. Unbelievably Pepsi.
Did you have a relaxing week off?
No, I did not.
It's always fun until somebody pulls a calf muscle.
Gets injured. It's just bad timing, but I'll be all right.
It is horrible timing because before the break, you were bragging about the Caymans. I'm going to go on this vacation.
Nope, didn't go. Couldn't go.
How bad is it when your whole team goes and they're like sending you these beautiful beach pictures? They probably all have drinks in their hand.
What was really odd was I didn't get any. They're like, oh, you can't make it? Okay. Kidding.
They're celebrating the fact boss man did. Oh, that sucks. The boss couldn't come. Oh, man.
Yeah, just terrible timing to have an injury. It was go on a trip with an unknown injury or go seek medical care in,
I'll take option 2.
Yeah, so.
Take option 2.
It's all right. Trying to get all better. Got a golf thing next week. So I'm going to go do golf in a week. And
man, you gotta get healthy in a hurry.
I'm going to try. I don't know. The doctor, when I mentioned I was going to play golf in a week, he just laughed and said, no.
And scene. Right.
Maybe I'll drive the beer cart. That'll be my job.
You know what my number one go-to is? Saluting the military. When we get back. It's always what we love to do here on the Stack and Benjamin Show on a Monday morning. So everyone, wherever you are, raise your glass.
They still got to work if they get hurt too.
I know. They are on all the time.
Pull the calf muscle, tough patooties, go attack the bad guys.
24/7. On behalf of the men and women making podcast Mom's Basement, the men and women listening to podcast made Mom's Basement, and the men and women at Navy Federal Credit Union, here's to our troops. Thank you so much for all you do. Let's go stack some Benjamins now, shall we?
Here's the song that we'd like to do for all the younger set of people, the teenagers and what have you. This one's called Vacation's Over. Vacation's over. It's over. It's over.
Live from Joe's mom's basement, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and did you miss us during last week's break? You know you did. And we're rested, ready, and on the mic. Today, we're joined by a mentor who helps people see their life more fully through lessons from her work helping people cope with dying. It's death doula Alua Arthur. In our headline segment, bad news for one celebrity who has retirement regret. How do you set yourself up for a better future? We'll learn from none other than Al Pacino. Hooah! Plus, I'll share some absolutely fantastic trivia. And now, 2 guys who don't look tan at all after a week away. It's Joe and G.
Well, that's because in northern Texas, it's been raining. Hey, everybody. Welcome to I'm Only Happy When It Rains podcast. I'm Joe Salsihai, Average Joe Money on the Twitter sphere. And across the table from me, Mr. OG is here for a Monday. Welcome back, my friend.
You make it sound like it's been raining for months in Texarkana. I know it hasn't because it just rained here too. And they were like, it's raining. Oh my gosh, it's raining. It hadn't rained since end of September here anyway. I don't know about
But it is
guys.
nice. It's one of those rains that feels like it's going to rain all day. I think about the old Winnie the Pooh movies where the rain came down in the 100-acre wood just all day. No, not doing it. Guess what we'll do? We're going to talk about purpose and really valuing your life today. I think it's a great time to reset here as we enter a new 8 weeks.
Turn the corner on the final 8 weeks of the season.
Yeah, right. And final is probably a good word
See what
here.
I did there?
I love it.
All right.
Alua Arthur joins us. She is a heck of a personal story. She is going to share not just what a death doula is, but really how we cope with our end of life. And I know we had Scott Mueller just before the break also help us with some of that as a funeral director. I guess we're covering death here a little bit.
Sweet.
So we can live better. Alua, every interview I've seen with her has been so engaging, so absolutely incredible. She's just an incredible human being. And that's why I really wanted her on. She was born in Ghana. And I'm going to ask her about that, about growing up and thinking when you're very young that you might die. She is a heck of a story about her father being a part of the government that's been just overthrown. And over the radio, they're telling all members of the government that you need to come turn yourself in or you will die. And by the way, everybody knows, OG, that if you turn yourself in, still probably going to die. What do you do in that circumstance? So she's been confronting death for a long time. She began her career as a lawyer. And like a lot of people who find their passion, they find their thing, realize that wasn't her thing. And we'll talk to her about changing course. But how does your thing become helping people die? I'm laughing because that would so not be my thing. She's been a keynote speaker at Yale University. She has been featured in Refinery 29, in Vogue magazine, on CNN, the Los Angeles Times, New York Times, and of course, now on Stacking Benjamins. We're going to hear from Alua in just a moment. She's our Monday mentor. But before that, we got a couple sponsors who make sure that this is free and that we can keep on keeping on. Let's hear from them. And then Alua Arthur waiting in the wings. In business, there is no room for guesswork. Every shipment matters. Every deadline counts. And when you're trying to keep operations running smoothly, the last thing you need is uncertainty. That's why reliability is at the core of USPS Ground Advantage. From the moment your package is first scanned in, it moves through a secure nationwide network, aiding in a timely and accurate delivery. You get near real-time tracking so you can keep up with your shipments. And with affordable upfront pricing, there are no hidden fees or surprise surcharges to throw off your cost sheets. It all adds up to predictable deliveries you can depend on, because knowing your logistics are handled lets you focus on everything else, your customers, your team, and the future you're building. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to start shipping with confidence. USPS Ground Advantage. We mean business. Dell PCs with Intel Inside are built for the moments you plan and the ones you don't. They're for those all-night study sessions, the moment you're working from a cafe and realize every outlet's taken, the times you're deep in your flow and can't be interrupted by an auto update. That's why Dell builds tech that adapts to you. Built with long-lasting batteries so you're not scrambling for an outlet, and built-in intelligence that makes updates around your schedule, not in the middle of it. Find technology built for the way you work at Dell.com/Dell PCs. Built for you. And I'm super happy she's coming down to the card table in Mom's basement. It's Alua Arthur's here. How are you?
I'm doing very good. Very happy to talk to you, Joe. How are you?
Likewise. I'm so happy to talk to you. This is such an important topic because, we talk a lot about purpose on Stacking Benjamins, and you see people in their last moments. I want to start this story where you start the story, because I think your storytelling is magnificent, number one. But you're in Cuba. What are you doing in Cuba as we open up your story?
I mean, at the time, I would have told you I was just going to see what I could see. I had been at the tail end of, what turned out to be the tail end of a major depressive episode. I'd been practicing law for the previous almost 10 years at Legal Aid, and the practice of law was not a good fit for who I was. Yet I kept trying, kept struggling, kept trying, and it just wasn't working. And I built a life that didn't feel like mine, even though I'd meticulously put it together. It felt like I was in somebody else's life, and depression blossomed. During that depression, I took a medical leave of absence because my psychiatrist and psychologist said, hey, you cannot keep this up. So I took a medical leave of absence from work and went to Cuba.
Isn't it wild how things just happen for a reason, though? I mean, the universe kind of comes together at the right time.
Things always, I think, come together at the right time. And it's easy to see in retrospect that that was such a pivotal moment in my life. At the time, I was just kind of following the little breadcrumbs ahead of me, trying to get to the next thing and the next thing, not aware that it would shift the trajectory of my life altogether.
100%. So you meet this woman named Jessica. Tell us about Jessica.
Jessica was 36 years old and a German traveler trying to see the top 6 places in the world she wanted to see before she died because she had uterine cancer. Now, her cancer was not terminal. And besides, that word terminal, I don't like to use too often because we're all terminal, realistically.
Right. Nobody gets out of this alive, right?
No, every single last one of us is terminal from the moment that we were born. And so her cancer wasn't one that they thought was going to kill her. But because of her cancer diagnosis, she had decided to take the invitation to go see the world. And that's what she was doing in Cuba also. We spent 14 hours together on a bus ride, talking about her diagnosis, talking about her life, talking about her fears around death. And it
Can
opened
I
my...
ask you something about that, though? Can I stop you there? Just
Absolutely.
because as I was first reading this, Alua, I was wondering, well, and she even says it. She's like, nobody ever asked me these questions.
Yeah.
And yet you do. Why are you all of a sudden this, or maybe you always have been, just this person that's asking these questions about death that nobody else is asking?
I'd never asked those questions before, but I think the simple answer is that I'm really nosy. And truly, and it was the first time that I was sitting with somebody who was in the middle of something this big. And I was like, tell me everything, which is what I do to the cashier at CVS or my waiter. You know what I mean? Like I just ask the maybe inappropriate questions all the time, but humans fascinate me. And I was also a little, maybe either drunk or hungover. And I think also as a result of depression, I'd lost that sense of tact, that thing that said, maybe don't go there, within 2 minutes of meeting a stranger. But I didn't know not to. And she came along with me. She answered the questions.
And it sounds like what you learned from that, at least what I got out of this, and I think you learned from that, is that people really do want to talk about death.
They do. They do. I believe that firmly. I think one of the things that we get wrong about death and dying is we think that people don't want to talk about it. We call it a taboo, but it's not. It's something that is on all of our minds, even if we push it down, even if we try to push it into the subconscious, it's still there. I think people often just need a little bit of permission to do so. And that's what my work does. When I tell people about my work as a death doula, they lean in. They want to talk to me about when somebody in their life died. They want to share their ideas about the afterlife. They want to ask me what I think happens after we die. I think we want to talk about it. We've just been conditioned not to.
What ended up happening to Jessica then?
Jessica's still living. She's still alive. She's in Scotland studying art history or something like that. She's writing novels. She was a writer beforehand, had always wanted to write like a big novel and hadn't yet. She was working for like a People magazine equivalent and so hadn't done the work that was really on her heart. And that was part of what we discovered together on that bus ride when I started asking her about her death and started asking her like what she wanted out of her life. She wanted to write. So she started writing.
At that time, death doula, did you have any idea what a death doula was? Was it a thing then?
It's been a thing since all time. I mean, as long as humans have lived, other humans have supported them through dying because dying is a community event. Yet it's becoming more, I'm going to say professionalized, and I'm using air quotes around that lately, as people need the support in person or even virtually. Modern life and the demands of it have grown to the point where all of us come to it a little unprepared unless we spend time talking about and preparing for it. Death doulas are doing a lot of the emotional work to support people to get ready for dying, but there's also a lot of practical work that goes into it as well. And that's the thing that the profession, I'm using air quotes again, of death doula is really supportive.
And what do you mean by the practical? Like some of the stories you have to figure out hospice and figure out the ramps, figure out the estate stuff. Is it all that? Is that what you mean?
I mean, get your stuff together. I don't just mean the money and the possessions, which is a place that many people start because they know that you should have a will or some end of life planning documents. But I'm also talking about being absolutely clear on who you want to make your decisions for you in the event that you can't, your desires for life support, what you want to have happen to your body after you die. Do you want a funeral of any sort? Do you want your life celebrated? Making these decisions ahead of time ends up saving a lot of grief, and that pun is entirely intended, for the people that are left afterward, because they're going to be deeply grieving. And then they're also going to have to pick out a casket or decide whether or not you even want to be buried or find a plot or try to make big decisions. And they really should just be tending to their grief because we love them enough to make these decisions beforehand.
It was amazing. So many people don't. And when my dad passed away early this summer, I went with my mom because they had already done a bunch of pre-planning the very next day to the place where they'd done the pre-planning. And to your point, Lua, it made it so much easier. My mom didn't have to think at all.
No.
She didn't have to think about anything because she'd actually done some of that work ahead of time.
Yep.
Do you feel like you were called to this because of the fact that I felt like death was kind of hanging over your family? Luckily, nobody in your immediate family died when you were young, but you tell this horrifying story of escaping Ghana during a regime change, was the government's being overthrown, your family trying to get out, your dad being thrown in prison. Do you feel like that death maybe being imminent has something to do with your chosen profession now, or you're as comfortable as you are with that we all are going to die someday?
I think it's really easy to see in retrospect how I was always set up for this, including this military coup and the fear of death that was blanketing the country that morning. But I felt really calm because my father was holding my hand. I felt safe, so people were in chaos, but I felt just fine the entire time. I was 3 years old. And then after that, my heart was really broken a few years later when a goat was killed. I heard this goat dying, and I was so taken by what sounded like its fear. It changed me. My heart was broken by Ryan White, who was a teenager. I think he was 13 when he died from AIDS. I was 11, and that broke my heart. When I look back, my heart has always been broken by how he died, and yet I hadn't had the in-person experience. I hadn't had a family member or somebody close to me die until my brother-in-law died, and that changed everything.
Yeah, I want to talk about that in a second. I want to get back to your dad and holding your hand, because also in retrospect, as you told this story, your dad has to leave the country because if he doesn't, he's going to probably be executed. He ends up turning himself in later and he's not able to escape the country, goes to prison. Like, as I'm reading that, not even as I'm reading it, as I'm hearing you tell the story now, you don't feel any fear because your dad's holding your hand. But your dad must have felt a ton of fear. It's like you're holding his hand, almost like you hold people's hands now.
I never thought of it that way. But I will tell you, when I finally talked to my dad about it very fully as an adult, I could feel the fear still from that day. I could feel the uncertainty and the sadness of what occurred there. He was holding my hand. I guess I was also holding his. At some point, he picked me up. I do remember being clutched. I always thought that he was trying to keep me safe and also get us out of the building as fast as possible, but he may have been holding on to me for dear life.
Yeah, I can't imagine just fleeing that quickly. Just, oh. Let's transition to where you were going, which is your brother-in-law, Peter. Tell me about Peter and how that influenced you.
Peter St. John was my older sister, bosom of St. John's husband. They met and married in her very early 20s, and I'm a little younger than her. Peter was my first older sibling. He was my first brother. I didn't have a brother. I have 3 sisters. He exercised dominion over me in the way that I think big brothers do. He teased me all the time and he annoyed me a lot. But I also knew that he loved me and he encouraged me a lot too. He wouldn't let me settle for any less. They were married. He was in my life for almost about 10 years before he got diagnosed with Burkitt's lymphoma. About 4 months into his treatment, the doctor said that they couldn't treat him anymore.
Can I ask you about that moment?
Yeah.
Because you're on vacation with your boyfriend, you write. You blow up at your boyfriend, and you don't say this, but I think, wow, that was unnecessary. Like there was no reason for you to blow up at him, but it just made me think about how much anger accompanies death and impending death. I have to imagine you see that a lot in the families that you work with.
Yeah, anger is a big component of grief, massive component of grief. We think of grief as these stages, that they're very linear. You move from one to the next to the next, and yet they flow all the way through. I had never properly allowed myself anger, and I use allow intentionally. because I often veer towards sadness before anger for a lot of different reasons. I mean, I'm a woman and we're not socialized to be angry. I'm a Black woman in America. I live in a state of anger, and yet angry Black woman is such a trope that I don't want to become it. And so I've worked really hard to avoid anger. And yet in my grief, I was really, really angry. That anger is the thing that the anger at the medical care system, at my brother-in-law for being sick, at my brother-in-law for dying, even though it was not his fault at all, but that's how my grief was being expressed. That anger pushed me. I think that anger really propelled the work that I do ultimately. It pushed me into building my organization, Going with Grace, where we train death doulas so that other people don't ever have to die in the way that my brother-in-law died. I did all this because I was pissed. I'm sitting here talking to you because I got pissed.
And it's amazing. Again, the universe, it all works. It all works together for a reason. And I'm laughing because clearly it isn't funny, but Peter's death, you wrote, gave you purpose. You felt this strong sense of purpose all of a sudden.
Yeah, I was the most on fire I'd been in a really long time because in my work at Legal Aid, I was very dulled. I'd become very dulled. I'd dim myself to try to fit into the practice of law. It just wasn't working. But with Peter's death, with where I got to support them, I was there for 2 months at the end of his life. I was running the errands. I was asking the questions. I was adding levity to the situations. I was helping take care of my niece. I was purposeful. I wanted to be useful so that my sister could be with her husband as he died, so that his parents could be there. I was like, we can do this. We don't have to think about this. We just get to be it.
It sounds like your sister really needed the support too.
I think a lot of people do when somebody in their life is dying. I'm glad I was able to be there for my sister. I wish that everybody had somebody who would be knowledgeable and kind and compassionate to journey with them as their person died.
You mentioned your sister and brother-in-law's daughter, and you sat with her. How do children see death? And you know, I remember when I was a kid and my grandfather died, and you know, my parents didn't want me to go to the funeral. We didn't really talk about it much. Like I was quote too young, right? I was too young. How should we treat kids when it comes to parents dying or family members dying?
Well, I'm really curious how that impacted your conception of death and dying when it finally was in your face. For now, I'll say that around the age of 4, kids begin to understand object impermanence. They understand that things go away and they don't come back. And that's essentially how they begin to create the framework for death. At that age, they've started to understand that it's possible. By denying that in children, by not allowing them to have access to it, by not indulging it, by not saying very clearly, this is what happened to grandpa, we tend to pass on our death phobia. We tend to pass on this idea that we can't talk about death and dying, that it's something that's a little too scary to talk about. And we reinforce that death is something that we don't honor in a way.
That's interesting, Alua, because after that moment, and for much, probably well past college, I just had this big death phobia, like very much afraid to die, very, very much afraid to die. And then later on, I very much made peace with it.
I'm happy
It
to
was
hear
a
that.
huge turn.
People probably never talked to you about it, right? They
No.
never gave you space to talk about your ideas. And I'm sure they did the best that they could because we all are at that point in time. But kids know a lot. I mean, we show them Bambi,
Right.
right?
Right.
Moana, have you seen that one? Oh my God.
Right. Oh,
Like
yeah.
grandparents die, people in video games die, cartoon characters die. Like they're in it. We just need to give them space to talk about it.
They think Game of Thrones is bad. Just give me Disney. My goodness.
That's good.
But I love what Peter's daughter asked you, because kids have some of the best questions. She asked you, are my dad's ears going to get really, really big?
Yeah, because everybody told her that he would go to heaven, but she couldn't go there. So she had a sense that it was very far away. And so she wondered if he'd still be able to hear her from there. And in her 4-year-old brain, the only way is because his ears would get large. You know, like if we could just say very plainly the things, and the kids wouldn't make up all these stories in their head. There is one sad example. There was a man that I met in his 30s who told me that after I think his grandparent died when he was about 4, 5, or 6, they told him that grandpa had gone to sleep.
Oh.
He was terrified to sleep for years because he knew that grandpa went to sleep and never came back. He thought the same thing would happen to him. We got to tell the kids the truth. Make them safe while we do it, but tell them as much truth as we can muster. And sometimes it is, I don't know. When kids ask, are you going to die too? Which my niece did ask, I don't plan on dying for a really long time. One day I will, but I do not plan on dying for a long time. We offer safety and we tell them the truth.
What a great answer. Because to your point, you're telling the truth. You're not scaring them with going to sleep and not waking up.
Yeah.
I feel like part of your job is almost to provide a roadmap. You write that death is different every time, that there's no set way things happen. Yet there are some things that you see. There's something that I didn't even realize before I read your book, that this was a common thing, and it's called a death rally. And Peter had a death rally. Can you tell us what a death rally is?
A death rally is, and it's colloquially named, I don't think that's the medical term for it. It's where the last little bit of life's fire is just pushing itself out through the body before the dying occurs, where somebody has been ill for a while. It looks like they're making a turn for the worse. And then at some point, they're back to feeling like themselves. They're sounding like themselves. They're asking for food. They're making jokes. They're present. And for many, it looks like the miracle that you've been hoping for.
This was my
Whereas-
dad. This was my dad just before he died.
Yeah. So you've experienced this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like everything's getting better. Maybe this is a miracle. But instead, it's a signal that dying is imminent, that act of dying is probably around the corner as the life burns off its last little bit of energy.
Are there other things that surprise a lot of the families that you work with, like a death rally?
Yes, terminal agitation is one that people sit with for years and feel guilty about or try to create context for. It's where the person is agitated. They either talk about wanting to go on a journey or a trip or leave, or they want to pack their bags, or they're trying to get up. There was a client I had years ago that kept trying to get her feet out of the sheets, yet she had Parkinson's so far developed that she couldn't do it on her own. But she was like, trying to tear at the sheets to get her feet out. She was agitated. And folks often think that the person that they care about is unwell, or they're not being treated well, or they're angry, but it's a sign that dying is occurring as well.
You were writing about one of the people that you work with that when loved ones are dying, we obviously don't want that to happen. So as people too, as family members or friends, we project what we want on them. We have a friend in our community who's a hospice doctor, Doc G, who gave me, Alua, this fantastic advice, because I told him my dad said, well, I've lived a really good life. This is a couple weeks before he died. And I said to my dad, a little bit angry, by the way, I said, Dad, don't give up. You shouldn't give up. And I told Doc G, this hospice doctor, this, and he said something very similar to what you say in the book, which is that we project what we want onto the person instead of truly what they need to hear. And in retrospect, I didn't let my dad tell me that he'd lived a good life, which is all he wanted to do. Instead, I turned it into this situation. And I think that must happen a lot if you wrote that in the book.
It happens all the time. And also, I'm going to say to you that that's an element of your anticipatory grief showing up. Don't die. Please don't die. Please don't go. Anything that you hear that sounds like the person is giving up, and it's not what we want. And that's really awesome advice, Doc G. G advice from Doc G.
Absolutely.
G advice from Doc G. It's important that we do our best to put our feelings aside as best as we can. We put our fear on the person that's dying. We put our hopes on them. We can just let them have their experience, as difficult as it is for us. But also, one day you get your turn to die. So then you get to do what you want when it's your turn. But right now it's their turn. And so let's let them have their experience.
And by the way, some of the ways people have their turn, you show up at one woman's house and she's playing music. I think she's playing reggae music super loud. She is dancing and she's not ready to go.
Yeah. I thought that she was ready. Her son thought that she was ready. Everybody thought that she was ready, but she wasn't yet ready. She thought that God, her words, still wanted to work a miracle in her and she was going to heal. So that meant I just had to meet her where she was at. And that's the creed of the doula, is that we meet the client where they are. It's not my job to help anybody get over their fear of death or to get them ready if they're not. When you're ready, we'll show up.
When did you finally decide that this was your profession?
That's a good question. I think I'm still noticing and choosing it every day. Because, I mean, it's an interesting one, just to be frank with you.
That's me too. I'm 56 years old and I'm like, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. So,
right? We're still figuring it out. I still think maybe I want to be a nail tech at some point. Bring people beauty on their fingers. But for now, this is what we're doing. And it feels really good to be doing it. I'll put it that way. And I love teaching. I love teaching death doulas. I love seeing the community and the work grow. On the bus ride with Jessica, I did have a strong feeling that this was something that maybe I wanted to do because I loved what came out of our conversation. She seemed to find some purpose in talking. She seemed to be unburdened by our conversation. I felt very much like myself. I didn't have to try very hard. And it felt like, wow, here's me just showing up as myself, which seems to offer some support for somebody else and some support that somebody seems to need. So let's see if this is a thing. And 10 years later, 2,000, 2,700 students later, 55 countries later, here we are. So I think it's a thing. Yeah, it's working.
Yeah, this very well might be a thing. I'm getting the feeling.
It's possible.
Nail tech might have to wait for just a little while.
My next act.
You've given us such great advice today about confronting loved one's death, about how to approach it, about some of the things to expect. But what about our own death? When and how should we really begin looking in the mirror? And how do you think that self-talk should go?
Well, I think it's important that we spend time thinking about it when we can. The right time to start thinking about our death is right now. It's absolutely right now. If you have any awareness that one day you'll die, please start. If you don't yet, come and talk to me. I'll be very, very gentle. I have news for you. But as soon as you have some awareness that you're going to die is the right time to start thinking about it. What we often do is we push it aside because it feels so scary. And it is sad, to think that I won't be around. This is a very common fear of death. And yet we can use our fear of death to teach us what it is that we value about our lives and then use our lives to create more of that, to multiply that. So start thinking about your death. Start thinking about what your fear is. Start thinking about what type of legacy you want to leave, what type of life you want to lead. Start thinking about the person that you want to meet as you're dying. I promise you'll be fine as you do it. You're not going to die just because you think about it. You're going to die anyway, but it won't be because you think about it. And doing that allows us to reach the end feeling like we lived a life that was authentic to us, and then maybe we can be ready to go.
Your book is called Briefly Perfectly Human, Making an Authentic Life by Getting Real About the End. As I hope our stackers can tell, just a amazing read between your own story and the stories you tell about people. I was going to say confronting death, but confronting death really isn't what we're doing. It's more accepting and living with, and I don't know, getting comfortable with the fact that, to your point earlier, we are all terminal.
Yeah. Just, I guess, embracing it, acknowledging it, talking about it. It's real. It's here. It will come.
And the book's available where finer books are sold, I assume.
Yeah, everywhere, actually.
Hey, Lua, thank you so much for mentoring our stackers today. I super appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Joe. This was fun.
Hey there, stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. What a week you missed while we were on break. Man, while Joe was distracted reorganizing our emergency Woodford bourbon inventory, I attended OG's one-man financial seminar on the importance of saltiness in your plan. It was great. Just Cooper the cat and me were fascinated. Sure, the cat fell asleep and OG about lost it, but I was enthralled. I feel like I'm OG certified now. We should build a monument in the basement to that guy. Speaking of monuments, and also celebrating that today is Veterans Day, how about this question? Which of Washington, D.C.'s National Mall monuments was completed on today's date back in 1988? The monument cost tons of Benjamins and is well worth every penny. I'll be back with the answer right after I see if OG has a masterclass we can sign up for to get a little bit more of that saltiness.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
You didn't start a business just to keep the lights on. You're here to sell more today than yesterday. You're here to win. Lucky for you, Shopify built the best converting checkout on the planet. Like the just one tapping, ridiculously fast acting, sky-high sales stacking, champion of checkouts. That's the good stuff right there. So if your business is in it to win it, win with Shopify. Start your free trial today at shopify.com/win.
Did you know Fast Growing Trees is America's largest and most trusted online nursery with thousands of trees and plants and over 2 million happy customers? Whether you're planting fruit trees, adding privacy, brightening things up with flowers, or bringing in houseplants, Fast Growing Trees has it all. Even better, they can help you find options that are right for your climate, your space, and lifestyle. Click Order Grow. Every plant arrives healthy with the Alive and Thrive guarantee straight to your door. So if you're ready to get planting, this is the moment. Right now, they have great deals on spring planting essentials, up to half off on select plants. And listeners to our show get 20% off their first purchase when using the code WWO at checkout. That's an additional 20% off. Better plants and better growing at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code WWO at checkout. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code WWO. Now's the perfect time to plant. Let's grow together. Use WWO to save today. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions apply. Go to growingfasttrees.com for details.
Hey there, stackers. I'm Educated Dude and the guy OG lovingly calls a, quote, horrible student, Joe's mom's neighbor Doug. The saltiness of OG's presentations just do something to lock in all the lessons he shared. Seriously good. If I had one critique, it would just be that we didn't cover something on the hardcore topic of lotto strategy, but I mean, hey, maybe he's saving that for the inevitable second class that I'm definitely signing up for. In fact, with OG's permission, I'm ready to start consulting on my own. For free, of course. I mean, feel free to call me anytime, stackers. I'll help you out. In fact, I'll also give you today's trivia answer for free. Check this out. One monument that cost lots of Benjamins was created on today's date back in 1988. Which one was it? Of course, that was the Vietnam Memorial, which is a long wall engraved with the names of those who died during the combat. For those of you who served, thank you. And for those of you who didn't, don't forget to thank a veteran today.
I think every day, OG, is an important day to thank a veteran, but if there's only one that you remember to do it, this is the day.
11/11, Armistice Day. Remember that terminology from history
Believe it
class?
or not, I wasn't there. I'm not that old.
You weren't there? No, I don't think anybody was. That's alive still now, sadly. But the Great War is what they called World War I. So
The war to end all wars at the time.
Yep.
Remember all that?
Except all the others.
OG, for Veterans Day, what is the best advice you can give to one of our military members that are maybe transitioning out of the military and becoming a veteran?
Whew. Best advice for a veteran transitioning out, I would say go slowly. You know, it's going to be a lot different on the outside as it is on the inside. Maybe a little less structure, maybe a little less
Slightly.
So it's just a skosh. I think find your community and find people that were a little bit further ahead of you that have kind of gone through this, right? That are 6 months out, 12 months out, 18 months out, and ask them for support, because it's going to be a little different when you, for the first time, interact with a bunch of civilians and, they all have long, shaggy hair and scruffy beards and they haven't shaved in a few days. That'll be a little different.
Let's get into today's headline.
Hello, darlings. And now it's time for your favorite part of the show, our Stacking Benjamin's headlines.
Well, sadly, one guy who is a veteran of Hollywood, been around the block, this guy. This is from Business Insider. Al Pacino says that he went from $50 million to broke, joining a long list of stars who've experienced money troubles. We see this all the time, OG, that a superstar actor, superstar singer, somebody who's great at whatever their field is, gets in trouble with their cash. And Pacino's issues are not that much different than the ones we've seen before. Al Pacino says he went from $50 million to broke by spending too much, ignoring his finances, and using an accountant who ultimately went to prison for fraud. He joins a long list of celebrities who've
Get
made
the trifecta.
checked all the boxes.
Bingo.
He joined a long list of celebrities who've made and lost vast fortunes during their careers. The scar-faced actor, 84, detailed a host of money problems in a new autobiography that he's written called Sonny Boy. One of his first cash crunches occurred after he finished making The Godfather, and MGM Studios sued him for taking that role when it had already cast him in a mafia comedy. Imagine being in a mafia comedy and you're like, no, I got to go make this other thing instead. Al Pacino got in trouble, OG, not for something different than we see with normal people, right? Ignoring your finances, pretending that, hey, if I don't look at it, everything's going to be okay. Never a winning strategy.
Even with earning, what did he say, $50 million or having $50 million?
80.
And
you're right. $50 million. Sorry.
You know, you can't out earn bad habits, right? At the end of the day, it's like, if you're going to spend 51 million and you only have 50, you're still just as broke as the guy that has 100,000 that spends 101. So,
or 30,000 that spends all of it.
You have to take care of the little things.
Well, let's talk about taking care of the little things, because no matter how much money you have, people get in trouble when you just delegate everything away and don't pay attention. And don't take that the wrong way, stackers. I think having good people in your corner is super important, but I feel like, OG, you always got to remember that you're the CEO. I used to tell my clients, I'm a shepherd for their sheep. They own the pasture. They own the sheep. It's their sheep. Even though you hire a shepherd to watch over stuff, you're still accountable for whatever that person does.
It's an interesting analogy. I've never heard you use that one before, but I can see you being Bo Peep in a heartbeat. It's on brand.
Didn't think that one through, apparently.
Did you wear the dress and everything? That's what I want to know.
I tried. It didn't fit that well.
The Goldilocks.
Well, all this golden mane of mine. Yeah.
I know. Way back when.
Sure.
I mean, you delegate a lot of stuff in your life, right? You delegate the, your health consultations to your physician. You delegate maybe your financial decisions to your financial planner. You delegate tax decisions to your tax planner, CPA. You delegate your estate planning decisions to your estate lawyer. But all of this is still you. You know, this is still your responsibility. And the person that's going to bear the outcome of what all of these decisions turn into is still going to be you. So you have to have some level of oversight. You know, this to your CEO discussion earlier. It's like, you can't just empower all of your people and then never check in and to see how they're doing in accordance with your vision. You're the CEO. You need to have the vision of what you want the future to look like. And then, the day-to-day tasks or whatever, but you still have to check in and have regular, board meetings, so to speak.
I learned a lot about goal-based planning actually from my clients. I had this great client named Dave, and Dave was, I'm sure, an excellent executive during his time at Ford. I just got that feeling. Even the way that he managed our relationship was great. He would sit down, OG, and he would spot check. And he even told me later on in our relationship, he goes, I can't know everything about everything, but I have to know enough about how this stuff works so I can ask the important questions. And his questions were always about, what's our target? How close did we get to it? Are we above it? Are we below it? Why are we there? And then can you show me the sheets? And by the way, he shared with me later, he didn't understand half of the stuff that I showed him later. He didn't get half it. But the fact that he asked for it made sure that I would be willing to provide anything at any time that he asked for. And he said, that's important. I wanted to see the look on your face when I asked for, show me the sheets that created this. Show me the stuff that was behind that. And what was interesting then, I realized that Dave, in his role at Ford, was just interested in making a car. Are we ahead of being able to make the car or behind being able to make the car? If we're behind, right, I'm going to recommend one course of action. If we're ahead, I'm going to recommend a different course of action. And because he was able to drive that discussion with me and I saw how effective it was, it made me more effective with other clients because I realized that's all we care about. Are we ahead or behind toward the goal?
Well, goal attainment is really the only thing that anybody cares about, although absent a really polished goal or really focused vision, you drift into other things that you think are important because there's maybe nothing else to talk about. Or if you don't have a solid goal and yet you're investing money, what's the only thing you can talk about with your investments then? Is investment return.
Yeah.
But return doesn't matter. If you could have 25% return every year, most people would say that's fantastic. But if you still don't have enough money when you get to retirement, who gives a crap about 25%? You know what I mean? Like that's you did the wrong thing. You focused on the wrong syllable, like my second grade teacher used to say.
This has been just a fantastic line of thought I've had lately, which is this idea.
Do tell.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. Your results may vary, but I do think that this focus, with Alua here today, it's an important day for this discussion, but this focus on purpose and what's driving us and why are we doing that? And we had a discussion recently on the show about risk and about why are we assigning risk metrics to our portfolio and not to taking more career risk? Like why do I want to put money from my hard-earned savings into a spot and then roll the dice? I worked my ass off to get that money. Like, don't get me wrong, there's going to be some money that's fun to take to Las Vegas. But if I'm thinking about risk and taking more risk, why do I leave it with just my investments? And by widening your scope in this discussion that we're having, saying, am I ahead or am I behind on the goal? Now I'm thinking of all avenues of achieving the goal. Oh, I'm behind. Yeah. Maybe I need to ask for a raise. I'm behind. Maybe we need to do a cleanse. Cheryl and I are doing another freezer cleanse. It's amazing how quickly. Remember we just did this a few months ago where we said we're not going to eat anything else until the freezer's empty. We did that. I was in the freezers last week. The freezer's full again. And Cheryl and I are like, let's do that cleanse again. It was so fun, by the way. Just not thinking about what we're going to eat.
Freezer burn chicken. Delightful.
What goes good with freezer burn? Oh, I know. Fresh vegetables. But it was really fun planning meals around whatever's left in the freezer.
Mystery meat. Let's thaw this package and see what we're having.
At some point, that also teaches us, and I thought it would have the first time that we did this earlier in the year. It'll teach
a little slower. Yeah.
Well, do some better meal planning. Because I'm like, how did we end up with all this? Now, part of it is we just had hamburgers last night. And the reason we had it is you buy a 4-pack. Sure. And we're going to have one each. So we got the second half of the pack. But anyway, maybe we do that. But look at all the things that are on the table that don't include notching up my investment risk. There's so many other levers I can pull if I widen out my financial plan.
Well, I think the other piece of that is that everything is connected. The decisions you make with your investments are going to affect your taxes. The decisions you make with your cash reserve or debt pay down strategy are going to affect your ability to save. The decisions you make in your estate planning are going to affect your retirement plan. Your college funding is going to impact your ability to save for retirement. Most people can't do both of those things simultaneously at 100%. You know what I mean? You're sacrificing some years of retirement to put money away for college. And that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. I think it's important just to know what you're doing so that you and your partner or you by yourself can make the decision with all of the information. And that comes from having clear vision of what you want the future to be. What's the Roy Disney quote? When your values are clear, your decisions are easy. I think that's really similar when it comes to financial planning. When you know what you're trying to do, then everything else becomes easy. You don't worry about market fluctuations or election cycles or any of those sorts of things because you're like, I'm on track for my goals. Do my stuff.
This is a lot like physical health. I was just talking to my doctor the other day and we were talking about how just getting on the right trajectory with one area of your health can clean up 5 other problems that you might have had. Pacino says that he sold assets, did seminars, a coffee commercial, and an Adam Sandler movie to stay afloat. Now, the way that
those 3 things really is bottom of the barrel,
right? The way that this is presented, and I'm assigning emotion to this, but it's presented like he didn't want to do those things, OG. Like the better you're able to manage this money, people are like, I don't have time. Well, if you don't have time now, you're going to be doing the Adam Sandler movie.
Whoa. Why do you think that was the bottom of the barrel one?
You're going to be doing the seminars
or the coffee commercial.
You're going to be doing the coffee. You're going to be doing stuff you don't want to do later on if you don't take care of it today.
That's the trade.
That is a good motivator, by the way. Hey, you don't like saving money now? Think about 30 years from now. How are you going to feel then? Like just imagine it's 30 years from now and you did nothing.
I find people talk about that and I'll be real honest. To me, that has no bearing whatsoever. I cannot generate the emotion in 30 years from now because despite my overall demeanor, I do think that the future is hopeful, right? Like I do think that, that tomorrow will be better than today in the long run, but maybe that's foolish. It's just, I personally have a hard time when somebody says, if you, that phrase, well, if you can't save now, imagine yourself at 70 with no money. It's like, it doesn't do anything.
Oh, that one got me. That one, when I was really turning around my financial picture in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was that. It was,
and now you're there.
Imagine I do nothing. Yeah. You know, it's funny. There's one that doesn't get me that everybody says. I saw this on a video this morning, a guy saying, what's the one thing that you would try if you knew you could not fail? That's the thing you should do. That never resonates with me. And I don't know if it's that failure is part of the fun, because that's when you learn. Like I don't go, oh, now I know what I want to do when I hear that. And I've heard that repeated several times.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Does that do it for you?
Does I do everything I want to do? I choose generally. I mean, I just think like, I'm not afraid of that, right? I'm not afraid of not being successful. I don't think it in the context of like bungee jumping. I'm not scared of bungee. I just don't want to do it. And it's like, well, what if I'm not scared of splashing into the water at terminal velocity. That's not the reason I don't want to do it. I'm not afraid of it. I just don't want to. It doesn't sound fun to me. Well, what if you knew you wouldn't fail? I'm pretty sure these guys are pretty sure that I'm not going to fail at bungee jumping. They wouldn't be doing it. It's just, I don't want to. So, I don't, some of them are a little hokey.
So Pacino's in his late 80s. He says he looked over his books. Get this, in 2011.
That was the last time.
Eventually looked over his books in 2011 when he just returned from an extravagant family getaway in Europe, and was surprised to see he was wealthier than before he'd left. Several other red flags eventually led him to an accountant who told him he believed his current bookkeeper was an arrogant crook. Turns out he was broke. He went to look at the books, and the books were all cooked. He's like, how did I just spend all that money? How did I just spend all that money in Europe? And I'm wealthier? I just blew a ton of cash, and you're telling me that it's even better. Yeah, not good.
Trust but verify.
I think that's a great place to leave it. We're going to dive even more into this topic and into all the lessons from Alua Arthur in our wonderful newsletter, the 201, stackingbenjamins.com/201. Deeper conversations about money, tons of curated links. We bring it the day after our Monday and Wednesday shows. Let's transition before we say goodbye to the back porch. And I got a great email from somebody today, just as we're recording this, OG. This is from Kat. And Kat says, hi, guys. Wow. This is the first time I've been on your website. And it's funny how much your images do not match up with the images I've had of your appearance based off your voices. Keep talking. I don't know what keep talking means. Does that mean she doesn't? That must mean she loves the way we look. It must mean.
I read that as get your faces off the internet.
I think that's what Kat's saying.
Okay. All right.
Anyways, you had casually asked listeners how they automate their savings. I enjoy having goals that I set yearly, but I sometimes like to make some long-term projection goals just to see how I, quote, stack up to these over time. Now look what she did there. This year, I wrote out how long it would take me to reach my first investment million if I increased my pre-tax accounts by my assumed yearly raise of 3% annually and added $100 extra per month to my brokerage contributions each year, starting at $100 per month last year. Looks like I should hit my goal somewhere around 43 to 44. I'm 35 now. I love it.
That's great.
Just as a pause, do you love doing that? I love doing that too, Kat. I love like back of the envelope. Oh, if I keep doing this thing and I can sustain it at this level for this amount of time, I'm going to totally be at whatever.
I think that the only downside there, and I know she talks about this in a second, the only downside is you don't believe your own math. Because you look at that and you go, that can't be true. That can't be true. Because if you keep doing that, right, you go 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4, you like just, and you go, yeah, it's off.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
It just doesn't feel right.
It doesn't feel right. Yep.
She is assuming, by the way, a nice 10% return.
Yeah. Okay. It's pretty good.
It is a good return, but if she's 35 now and she's looking at 7-8 years, just realize, Kat, that over a 7-8 year period, the 10% is sketchy.
Could be 7, could be 8.
Yeah. If you told me 15 years, I'd go, yep. I then wrote this plan out as a pledge. I love this, as a pledge along with the yearly assumed totals until that first million, and thumbtacked it above my desk at work. I see it every day and it holds me accountable. That's pretty badass.
Excellent. Yep.
No easy feat when we have a toddler in daycare and another baby due in April that will require full-time daycare as well. Well, now that you're having kids, Kat, you're learning where the friction is in this whole equation.
That's right.
We had two at once. I learned very quickly what are those bumps in the road? What a speed bump is. Not even a speed bump. You know, when the cop throws the chain across the road and then your tires go flat.
I don't have any experience with that personally.
That's what it was like having twins on my financial accounts.
Go careening off the edge of the cliff.
Right.
Into the ditch.
I just seem to thrive off of self-imposed deprivation to some degree. I like having to think outside the box to make my life less expensive or gain money from other sources to make up the difference while still freely spending at times to enjoy life experiences. Kat, I love doing that too. When I think about December, how can I make extra money to afford the extra gifts for family, the extra travel we're going to do versus having it come out of the budget? Like, it is a fun thing to do. And even if you miss it, some years I make it, some years I miss it, I feel really good about the fact that this extra money is not coming out of the budget. And I just created more. And I think part of that, OG, leads you to this feeling of the abundance of life. You know, that guess what? I can create more. And I know that if times get really hard, there's an inner me that can come out that can make more money. I can do this. I can make it happen. She says the accounts are already ahead of where my projections have me for June of next year, but I realize that this won't be a linear course. I also agree with OG's comment that people have to see firsthand money issues to really have motivation to do this for themselves. My parents divorced when I was in middle school. Dad went through bankruptcy, and my mom has always lived on credit cards and had some pretty bizarre living situations. We lived in a camper in a friend's driveway for a summer, and now their son is a medical resident at the hospital I work for. Awkward. Anyway, OG's comment made me realize that I might be able to give my kids the greatest head start, one that I didn't have, but will they care enough about it to carry that legacy forward? How did you navigate this with your own children? Is it more truly caught, good or bad, than taught? Great question, Kat. Love, by the way, all the stuff that you're doing.
Yeah.
So badass. But with your kids, how did you make sure that your kids want to carry that legacy forward? It's hard to give them stuff and at the same time go, you know what, you got to work for it.
Well, we have done a really poor job of making our kids work for it, except for the fact that we really want them to do well in school. And maybe that's the trade. Mom and I will help you with college, and we'll make sure that we do our part there. And your job is to do as well as you can to get scholarships and apply to schools that make sense and, you know, be smart in your decisions there. Like my son is applying to a bunch of different schools, and some schools are costing $25,000 a year to go to, and some schools cost $90,000 a year to go to.
Oh.
Retail sticker price, right?
Right.
And it's like, assuming that all things being equal and there's no grants or aid of any kind or whatever, it's like, is the $100,000 cumulative cost of school A that much worse off than the $400,000 cumulative cost of school B? And it's like, are you that much further ahead? And if there's a case for that, let's assume that you are, then how do we adjust for that? You know, so it's like, there has to be some sort of back end recompense for that big step forward of 25 grand versus 70 or whatever the number is. You know, it's like, I need to look at it from a business decision, not, but I really like the school colors. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's not a thing, right? School colors is not a thing.
Nick had to tell us, because he was looking at Carnegie Mellon, out of state, private school, great school, but an equally good school in state in Austin, University of Texas. And when he was making that final decision, Cheryl and I said, we want you to tell us why materially Carnegie Mellon and this much more money that we're going to spend is going to be worth all of this extra cost. And he couldn't do it. And because he couldn't do it, he ended up having a wonderful experience at the University of Texas.
The Orange School, Orangetown.
Not good.
Yeah. So back to Kat's point or question, it's like, it's a balancing act, I think, between trying to figure out how to give your kids a head start, give them a leg up, make sure that they have a different, maybe I don't want to say better, because I think we all have experiences that help us move forward, but a different set of challenges. And there's nothing right about giving your kids a whole bunch of money and they're off with a proverbial silver spoon. There's nothing wrong with it either. It's just, it's how you manage that discussion and how you help them understand how that's going.
Kat, I think to OG's point, everybody is walking in the fog here. You're walking the fog. You're sharing stories. And back on episode 1573, we had John Acuff and John Lanza, 2 dads, and I, 3 dads, sitting around having a roundtable conversation about this very topic, about parenting and our fears around parenting and what we think we did right, what we would do different. Cheryl and I did three things specifically. And again, is it right? Is it wrong? I think my kids are doing really well now. They're 29 years old, have had a fantastic 20s. I look at, they've had very different experiences, the 2 of them, but I look at them directionally and I think that they're doing well. Thing 1 we did was they had jobs. Having jobs for us was something that we wanted our kids to do. I wanted them to get a leg up on the working world. Also, when you're in high school, you're going to have the crappy job. And I think a lot of times people haven't had the crappy job. It's easy to, you ever been in a restaurant with somebody that craps all over the waiter? And you're like, you've never had a rotten job, have you? You've never had a job where you're serving other people. And so they had some pretty rotten jobs in high school. That was number 1. Number 2 was we included them in the money discussions. They weren't in on every weekly meeting that Cheryl and I had, but we had them in there a lot so that they kind of knew what we worried about as adults when it came to money. And then the third one was we also realized that Cheryl and I, they're going to roll their eyes to some degree. Oh, it's dad. Oh, it's mom. Like my kids knew what I did. They know my background. So they know that this stuff is stuff I'm good at discussing, but they don't want to hear dad preach about it. So I introduced them to people that were a little closer to their age and who I thought might be good mentors for them. And it's funny because my daughter really took to Erin Lowry, broke millennial, and loves Erin's brand and everything she talked about not being a broke millennial. My son, Nick, as people know that heard our show live from Camp Fi last week during the off week, we replayed my interview of my son. If you didn't hear that, go back and listen last week to my interview with him. I introduced him to Scott Trench from Bigger Pockets and Scott's book, Set for Life. And Nick was like, I want to be a bajillionaire because Scott's a bajillionaire. And being able to introduce them to other people that aren't you, whether you do what I do, or you just see people in your community and go, you know what? Hey, maybe we'll take Mrs. So-and-so to coffee who owns the flower shop because she seems to be rocking, or we'll take Mr. So-and-so out for lunch and pick his brain. Being able to introduce them to influential people to see what they did at a young age, I think is a good idea. So those are the 3 things we did. Kat, obviously you're starting off on the right foot. You know why? Because you're asking the question. So many people, OG, aren't even asking this question.
Right.
Thanks for that note, Kat. By the way, if you've got a note for us, a great way to do it is the segment we do on Wednesday, Better Call Saul, C-Hi, and OG. I love this note. If you want to send me a note, it's just joe@stackingbenjamins.com, but leaving us a voicemail means you're going to get the swag. And I've got the new swag, OG. I'm wearing it today.
See that?
Nice thing on the back, on the front. Very comfortable new Stacking Benjamin swag. stackingbenjamins.com/voicemail. All right. That's going to pretty much do it for today. I've got just 2 more things. Number 1 is if you're not here to talk about kids and money or about just saving money, but the thing that we really talked about with Al Pacino today and with Alua Arthur, with Al Pacino, it was making sure you're the CEO. With Alua Arthur, it's because you've got bigger goals. You've got a bigger life to live. And so living that bigger life means taking control. If you need your plan to dovetail better, OG and his team are taking clients. So head to stackingbenjamins.com/OG. That's stackingbenjamins.com/OG. That's the link to get on OG's schedule with he and his team so that you can see how they can interface with you to make better decisions. That's obviously not the last thing. We need to say a special shout out again to our veterans. Thank you so much for all that you've done. Thanks for being a part of our community. We appreciate you so much. Doug, I think you got it from here, man. What should we have learned today?
So what's stacked up on our to-do list for today? First, take some advice from Alua Arthur. In the words of the great Jack Welch from General Electric, there are times, some more than others, when it's time to accept reality as it is, not as you hoped it will be or wished it were. Second, Take some advice from our profile of Al Pacino's situation. We're advocates for getting help, but remember, you're still the CEO of your life. But the big lesson? Don't try to tell Joe's mom stories of your Southeast Bahama State days. She'll push you off that stage in a hurry with her own college days stories. Who knew you could take a horse and buggy to college? It was a joke, Mom. God. And it looks like I'm washing windows again. Thanks to the amazing Alua Arthur for being our Monday mentor today. Her new book is called Briefly Perfect Human, Making an Authentic Life by Getting Real About the End. We'll include links in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. This show is the property of SB Podcasts, LLC, copyright 2024, and is created by Joe Saul-Sehy. Joe gets help from a few of our neighborhood friends. You'll find out about our awesome team at stackingbenjamins.com, along with the show notes and how you can find us on YouTube and all the usual social media spots. Come say hello. Oh yeah, and before I go, not only should you not take advice from these nerds, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, speak with a real financial advisor. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we'll see you next time back here at the Stacking Benjamin Show.
We voted yesterday. The guy who was collecting the ballots had a very nondescript polo shirt on with embroidery above the pocket here with gold jump wings and a scuba bubble, which is basically Recon Marines.
Yeah.
And just old dude. And I go, gold jump wings and scuba bubble. Semper Fi, Recon Marine. He's like, kind of looks at me. He's like, oh, Devil Dog. You're the only one's noticed this so far. I said, yeah, I bet. It was just very, because sometimes you see sometimes people wear like a little pin or something like that. And if you know, you know, if you don't, you don't. And just this old Vietnam vet, probably not old enough to be World War II or Korea, but certainly Vietnam. And said, sweet dude, nice work.